trigger happy and I give less than a fuck. Love me or hate me, I'ma show enough, rip shit up. It's Mr. Nothing, nice on a mic stand. Mic in the left and the zest in my right hand. I took a puff, had enough now, hold up. If that was Indo, niggas getting rolled up.
What to do, YouTube? This is Acid Root. So I'm going to review Fall Out Boy's third album, Infinity on High. Now, basically, this record was on the heels of Fall Out Boy's 2006 and late 2005 success with From Under the Cork Tree, which I reviewed on this channel back in May. And virtually, they had a series of hits off of there, two in particular that were really good, which was Sugar We're Going Down and Dance Dance, both of which were real hooky, real nice kind of pop punk type music that had a light sense of kind of like outgoingness towards it. Well, I mean, they were like social songs, but not quite as much club songs and kind of rave songs and that type stuff, where this album has way more singles and a lot more gloss to it. I would definitely say a lot more gloss and polish, and obviously I think it had to do with the success of From Under the Cork Tree, but this is a good record. It's not to say that it's just solely, like, I do eventually want to review their 2003 album to see how their debut went, but it has like an amalgamation of different styles, where if you like the song Sugar We're Going Down, which was basically their breakout single at that time, they do have some attempts to try to bring back the magic of that, but none of the singles from this album really are in the same variation for the most part that was from Under the Cork Tree. And I'm gonna take a look at From Under the Cork Tree real quick, because I want to say that there was a third single. I don't know if I'm thinking of like I don't know if I'm thinking of Panic at the Disco or not. Yeah, there was. A Little Less 16 Candles. I knew that, so there were 3 singles. That was pretty good from Under the Cork Tree, but they're like, they don't really, they try to replicate Sugar We're Going Down, doesn't quite turn over as well. Dance Dance definitely has like a more gloss and social type vibe in a lot of the singles. I think people really like Dance Dance, and that kind of was like, hey, you know, let's make a song like this, expand upon it, build upon it, and kind of see some different kind of social kind of setting vibes that we can do with it. And then A Little Less 16 Candles kind of has a sequel in the singles also. So virtually this is an outgoing album. Like, there was an album I reviewed last month, Green Day's 2020 album. This is kind of like a taste of that Green Day project, where a lot of it's just at like a wing stop, kind of like a restaurant where there's liquor and that type stuff, a bar, a pub, a sports bar, that type stuff, you know, somewhere where you get nachos or wings, a football game, some of those type settings where you're going to hear music and it's kind of loud and blaring and that type stuff. I definitely kind of feel like Fall Out Boy realized that this time around, where From Under the Cork Tree was a lot more pop punk or kind of pop punk, but a lot more punk, had a lot more summery kind of vibes, and a lot more songs like Sugar We're Going Down, and just a lot more kind of summery and just kind of lazy and mellow and kind of hazy and that type of stuff. But this has a lot more gloss, a lot more outgoing, and a lot more kind of festive and city-like, I would definitely say, whereas From Under the Cork Tree felt more rural. So that's kind of the situation. But I'll go ahead and talk about the singles now. So The Carpal Tunnel of Love was not actually the lead single, but it was a digital single that came out a few weeks before they started their rollout. I really appreciated this song. I really appreciated The Carpal Tunnel of Love. This is a real kind of differential kind of vibe. This kind of showcases the direct change from Under the Cork Tree, and it really kind of just immediately kind of has like a sports bar and kind of more football game night venue kind of setting where you're going to hear music and have food and that type stuff. Really appreciated that. I like the fact that Fall Out Boy went to town on this, and they fit pretty seamlessly with this kind of punk and kind of in like an emo punk, but then very much glossy and mainstream and commercial kind of altitude. So it's really interesting kind of getting some of this, because it really creates some festive night activities. And This Ain't a Scene, It's an Arms Race was the actual lead single from this project that kind of kicked off the rollout. And I appreciated this just because it's kind of like a pseudo sequel to Dance Dance, the one of the breakout singles from Under the Cork Tree. Definitely just as hooky as that. Yeah, definitely just as hooky as that. And it may not be like the massive hits. I feel like comparatively, if you had to compare Dance Dance to This Ain't a Scene, I'd probably say Dance Dance probably just slightly has the edge, but I do feel like the better polish on This Ain't a Scene definitely is to be expected, to where you shouldn't really be complaining if you're saying, well, which one's better, Dance Dance or this song? Because they're both good. It's just another hit for Fall Out Boy, and definitely is another hit single, even though I still think if I had to guess, I would say that Dance Dance would get plays over This Ain't a Scene, but they're both good. So just kind of, but they're similar in that sense, but both kind of, I mean, this is kind of like a party. This Ain't a Scene, It's an Arms Race is kind of like a party song, kind of at like a house party type song. It can be a night venue type song, can be a club type song. Just about any social setting where there's going to be a get together or gathering, I think it could work pretty well. Thanks for the Memories is a work song. This is probably like the breakout single. If I had to guess which single from this album gets the most spins as of right now, it's 15 and a half years later, I would definitely say it's Thanks for the Memories. This has a real kind of earworm kind of hook. This is like their Sugar We're Going Down and Dance Dance single from Infinity on High. This is the one that got the breadth of like the popularity. Easy kind of song to listen to at work. This is the one I think would be heard the most. Maybe This Ain't a Scene, but that's a little bit heavy a song for like, this is a song that can be played in the morning, the daytime, the afternoon, the evening, the night. I feel like Thanks for the Memories just has that kind of vibe where you put on your apron, you put on your work clothes and that type of stuff, and you get to work, and it's just a good makeshift kind of song, but it's emo in that sense. So it's really kind of appreciative to kind of see the blue collar emo type stuff in terms of how well that meshes, because it's not all the time that kind of happens. Great song, great hook. The takeover, the breaks over. This song was probably the weakest sing. I mean, I don't think it's the weakest in terms of quality, but it's the single that charted the least off this project. And to me, this is just an instant kind of, like, you can just tell how outgoing this song kind of feels and such. I appreciate it. Like this, I mean, you begin to get off these singles that it just has, like, you can basically crest through the night with a lot of these, just in terms of just going out and having nachos and having chicken wings and barbecue wings and Subway sandwiches and that type stuff. Just how many other situations that would kind of naturally happen. It just has some pretty much excellent vibes about it. Yeah, I would have to say it's, I mean, all of these singles really kick ass. It's just a good thing about it is just being able to say how well this project kind of holds over in terms of that. So it's not quite as catchy as Thanks for the Memories, but it doesn't dip in quality. So that's something to know. And then I'm like a lawyer with the way I'm always trying to get you off, me and you. You know, this is basically the sequel to A Little Less 16 Candles, a little bit more not quite as summery. This single compared to 16 Candles is not quite as summery, not quite as hop and bop and just like pedestrian in terms of like just going, just kind of walking and kind of being on like a daytime date, as much as now it's kind of more in like a restaurant. You're going to spend a little bit of money and cents and that type of stuff. I mean, it just feels less kind of, this single in terms of like a sequel to the romantic sense just feels less adolescent. That's kind of the thing. It just feels less adolescent, a lot more like, hey, you know, we're kind of getting closer and that type of stuff. We're getting kind of more like this and that type of stuff. So it's just kind of where, you know, 16 Candles felt more like puppy love, that type of stuff. This kind of feels more like a little bit more intimate and kind of, you know, splurging money and that type of stuff, where it's just a lot more. But I did appreciate it. It's another good song here. All five of the singles really kick ass. That's kind of the concept. Yeah, Patrick Stump did a great job on all these. Just real good way of putting this sort of stuff together. So I'm going to talk about like the rest of the project in terms of some other things. Like I said, there are some songs that try to do that lazy kind of mellow summery vibe from the first, or not from the first album, but from their 2005 album. I feel like Thriller, Hum Hallelujah, and like Gay is not a synonym for shitty, and there's like probably one other song that does that, but like maybe Golden kind of does that also. But they do try to bring back like some of that kind of from under the cork tree vibes, but because they evolved so much on this project, the gloss really suits them better than trying to rehash from under the cork tree. And the unfortunate thing is about From Under the Cork Tree is that was a great project, but unfortunately, I mean, it would have been. I mean, the thing about it was in the singles they basically did a sequel to every single that was on there, minus Sugar We're Going Down. So that's really the only song. If you were like a true fan of Sugar We're Going Down, you're hoping for a sequel to that song. That's really the only That's really the only single off of From Under the Cork Tree that didn't get like a spin off and a proper follow up, but they do at least try to do it. But I felt like it didn't work that well. Those are most of the songs I didn't enjoy. Were the From Under the Cork Tree rehashes. There are some other songs for like romantic sense and going out with like significant others and that type stuff. I feel like all I've got all this ringing in my ears and none of my fingers. I've got all this ringing in my ears and none on my fingers, and Bang the Doldrums are kind of a continuation of kind of the more flirt type vibes of like I'm like a lawyer. And it's good to kind of get that just because, I don't remember if From Under the Cork Tree had any real sequels and similar vibes to like 16 Candles, but I kind of feel like it is good to kind of have that in a sense because you've kind of got like a mini EP's worth of just like flirty kind of vibes to kind of get through the night. So it succeeds on fronts as far as doing stuff in kind of like a party setting, an outgoing setting, getting nachos, going to a football game, going out and seeing stuff and that type of stuff, and just kicking back, even at a night venue, listening to music and that type of stuff. And then it also succeeds in taking a date out as well. So this is kind of the concept. So, but it also there's another type vibe, like I was saying, the night vibes where I just described of going out. There's songs like, yeah, so Don't You Know Who I Think I Am and Fame Greater Than Infamy kind of continue like the night kind of outgoing type vibe of like the takeover, the breaks over, and this ain't a scene, it's an arms race. So as far as that kind of went, I did appreciate like Patrick Stump and his vibe. I did appreciate Patrick Stump's kind of newfangled vibe of going out more and kind of less in like a lazy kind of, like I said, rural and kind of more summery setting of like From Under the Cork Tree. But there may be some folks who still appreciate that kind of vibe. But I did appreciate this sense of kind of having like this extra tangent of like having a newfangled outgoingness on here. Like Fall Out Boy took to like the more night venue type stuff like a fish to water. So it's interesting, kind of got that, and they definitely proved it with the singles. So, but yeah, so I'm gonna go ahead and list the songs to you that I recommend. There were 11 songs out of 16, and that's counting like the two bonus songs on. There's a deluxe disc depending upon what version that you get, and that has the songs "Gay Is Not a Synonym for Shitty" and then "It's Hard to Say I Do When I Don't." Basically, I did like "Gay Is Not a Synonym for Shitty." It kind of reminded me of, yeah, "Gay Is Not a Synonym for Shitty" was kind of more in like the From Under the Cork Tree sense, a lot more summery kind of vibes towards it. This is like vintage Fall Out Boy here. I did appreciate that one, but I felt like "It's Hard to Say I Do When I Don't" is kind of like a makeshift and kind of almost like it kind of feels "It's Hard to Say I Do When I Don't" kind of seems like a more romantic song that just kind of is in like a makeshift rock kind of setting where I didn't quite appreciate that one. I didn't quite appreciate that one as much just because I didn't like the production on there. I felt like it probably could have had a different kind of vibe in the instrumentation as far as that went for like the way that topic kind of went. This kind of felt like that could have been interchanged with another type song lyric and kind of done it in a different sense, but that basically could have been any song. It just kind of seemed random for that to be kind of like a breakup song. But so I'll go ahead and list the 11 songs out of 16 I recommend. So they are "This Ain't a Scene, It's an Arms Race," "The Carpal Tunnel of Love," "The Takeover," The takeover, the break's over. I'm like a lawyer with the way I'm always trying to get you off. Thanks for the memories. Don't you know who I think I am? You're crashing, but you're no wave. Fame greater than infamy. I've got all this ringing and none on my fingers. I've got all this ringing in my ears and none of my fingers. Bang the doldrum, and gay is not a synonym for shitty. So that's basically the concept there. So a lot of this project I really did enjoy, but like I said, for the most part, the main records I didn't quite enjoy were just the ones that were kind of more a rehash of like From Under the Cork Tree that didn't quite pull off the summery vibes, and then like um, the extra bonus song, It's Hard to Say I Do When I Don't. There's just how much good stuff on here. The new tricks that they actually do, the new tricks they do, they pull off rather well. 5 great singles. So I'm going to give this album a 9 out of 10, maybe like an 11 out of 16 or 10 out of 14 on the regular edition. I just would have to say that's the vast majority. I'm going to give this album just a straight 9. I feel like great singles, great approach, great new stuff, great new tricks, plenty of situations, great overall kind of outgoing kind of feel and approach and execution of what it's trying to convey and stuff. It's an emo pitched kind of album that kind of has like mainstream attempts that they pull off well, and it's just overall it has the energy towards it of trying to be a good makeshift rock record. And the only thing really it isn't is just a good headbanging record, but other than that it's not metal, but it is pretty it's a excellent rock record in that sense, in terms of like commercial vibes, alternative vibes, and just punk vibes and stuff like that. So there's plenty to go along with that. And the social score, I'm going to give a 10, just because 5 singles that all hit extremely well. That really kicks ass. I just feel like the vibes behind that are extremely like affable and good to go and that type of stuff. They all really catch well, and they've got extra songs besides the singles as far as stuff that's intended for things, extra romantic songs in terms of dates, and just plenty of good vibes. They even rehash some of their old feels from their previous album, which not every artist does. So there's plenty to really go around in terms of that. They had the bases covered and they understood what was going to happen. So there's really no reason why most fans of punk music and Fall Out Boy should not like this record. It's just a real outstanding treat. So, in terms of the future, I really don't know what Fall Out Boy has been up to. I kind of have forgotten about that just because it's been a little while. I don't remember their most recent record, but I do at least know this and From Under the Cork Tree. I'm going to have to learn about them more, but hopefully they have records as good as this and From Under the Cork Tree, because both of these were pretty excellently good.